Hello Laziali all over the world, welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. I'm Vittorio Campanile and finally Alistair's second win for Lazio this season. First away win, so celebration. Before we talk about this game, Alistair, I have to remind something. Guys, if you're coming to watch a Lazio game, please contact us earlier than the day before the game so we can arrange something. Um, Before the derby, I was pleased to meet James, but I found out that even Mark Gandini was at the stadium, Marcel was there, and we didn't catch up, which is disappointing because one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast is to bring together the Lazio community all over the world and, maybe have a pizza or, as the derby was at lunchtime, a coffee together and talk about our favorite team. So if you're planning to come to Rome to watch a Lazio game, get in touch with us on social media, here on Patreon, wherever you want, and we can organize something together. Not usually with Alistair, he's a very busy man, but I'm usually at Ponte Milvio 2 hours before the game, so we can easily catch up and have a coffee together. Right, Alistair?
Well, yeah, I mean, I do try. The problem with the derby was you were there at like 7 o'clock in the morning, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, it was a nightmare.
Yeah, and it wasn't easy getting up there as well, because obviously they barricaded the roads from the southern side and all that. But yeah, the derby's a bit of a one-off. But yes, you're right to mention that, and it's a good time to mention that because it's better to suggest such a thing after we've won a game with people in a good mood.
Yeah, and Alistair, we were going to this game, Monday night game, by the way, with a lot of question marks, right? We had Dele Bashiru, Rovella injured. We had Belayan, Windusi suspended. Vecino didn't manage to make it again. So we didn't have that many midfielders, and we had a lot of question marks. How will Sari play? Who will play? Will we move back to Baroni tactics? We brought back Basic, Toma Basic, after more than a year without playing an official Serie A game, was starting the game, Alistair. So we had a lot of question marks, and we can say after the games, all went well, right? 3-0 win, no goal conceded, nice performance from the team in a new scheme, completely new scheme for Maurizio Sarri. So not that bad, right?
Not that bad at all. Everything, like the fact that we changed formation, like seeing Sari play a different formation in itself is weird. Seeing Toma Basic come back and start in midfield for Lazio is weird. Seeing Patrick return and play central midfield was weird. And then weirdest of all was seeing Lazio not only keep the clean sheet, but basically score with all our chances. Like when clinical in front of goal, it's been the problem we've complained about all season. More chances if we're going to score goals this team, and this time around, my God, they took their chances really well. Apart from one pretty obvious glaring miss from Cancellieri, who, regardless, had a great game. It was a brilliantly clinical attacking performance from Lazio in a game where they really had to dig in and find a different way of playing. Didn't have much of the ball, didn't have much possession, but they went up there and got a great result, which takes a lot of pressure off after the derby.
Yeah, definitely. I can imagine our friend Steve from the Laziali is like celebrating yesterday after Cancellieri finally scored. He got a lot of heat after this summer saying, "Hey, watch out for Cancellieri. He's gonna be a good player." Matteo Cancellieri started the first 3 games of the season, didn't go as planned, I would say, was benched at the derby. He didn't come in, nothing came in. Yesterday, starts the game after 2 minutes. Amazing, wonderful assist from Tadi Castellani. We have to mention that. But, not bad after 2 minutes. Put it in the back of the net. Lazio scoring, first goal for Cancellieri as a Lazio player. Nice to start games like that, right, Alistair? And I mean, Was Cancellieri man of the match? He's been awarded the prize. I thought probably Tati deserved it more, but nice performance, right?
No, I thought he was. I thought he was. He was the biggest threat, biggest question mark for the Genoa defense to deal with in that game. I think it suits him. We've said this before, but it suits him far more to have these kind of matches where you're sitting deeper, you're launching counterattacks into space, than games where you're trying to pick your way through a deep defense. The game is better set up for him, and perhaps that's a signal that this is where we need to use Cancellieri more than in those games against banked defenses. So I think his directness, his pace caused them problems all the way through. My wife was kind of coming in and out of the room, and I don't think ever heard of Cancellieri until last night. And then she came in and she said, who's this Cancellieri guy? I just keep hearing the commentator saying his name all the time. And I was like, well, that's because he's involved all the time. I mean, he was brilliant. And I like the way he got in a little kind of, don't know what you'd call it, a little tiff with Vitinha as well. There was a little back and forth going on there, winding them up a bit. I thought it was a brilliant performance. Really happy for him to score his first goal in Serie A for Lazio. And yeah, finally kind of show what some of the stuff we'd seen in pre-season, because that goal was kind of like a prototype that had been worked on in pre-season. That kind of move we saw quite a lot, but yeah, good composure to pick his spot, and hopefully that he can build on this. But I don't know what you think if this means he's now like about to take off, or if this is just a sign that this is a particular kind of game where he's best.
Well, I guess we have a lot of question marks still, right? When Isaacson is going to be 100% fit, will he start or will Cancellieri start? Because Alistair, we didn't talk about it, and we're going to go in depth later. But this new scheme, this new solution, moving from the 4-3-3, Sarri said it last night. If we want to play like this, very offensive-minded, Lazio had like 4 strikers playing. So he needs someone like Cancellieri that is defending better, I would say, rather than Isaacson, Nosny, etc. So that's probably the reason why Cancellieri started yesterday. And you were mentioning the fight he had with Vitinha. He defended well. He came back giving support to Marusic in the first half and Hisa in the second. So that's very valuable for Sarri. And, I thought after this game, he should be starting next Saturday against Torino. And I hope that this goal gives him the boost he needs to keep improving, keep getting better. Because you mentioned we took all our chances. He wasted a huge opportunity in the second half. It's true that we already 3-0, but, you have to finish, take those chances. That was pretty much the copy of the goal he scored in the first half. So we have to take these chances, but Cancellieri definitely a nice surprise, a good surprise. And I'm curious to see moving forward if this gonna boost his opportunity, his chances, improve his performance. Because you were mentioning in the friendly games, he was definitely one of our best. But against Como, he was invisible. Sassuolo, again. Verona, where we won, he missed 2 very good chances. So I hope this changed a little bit the season of Cancellieri. But we have to mention Toma Basic, right? I mean, he didn't play a single game, a single minute in 1 year, and suddenly he started. And obviously, it's not that he played like Milinkovic Savic, but after 1 year and more without playing, he had a good performance, right?
Yeah, solid. And, if you'd asked someone who had no idea who the player on the pitch was that hasn't played for over a year, I'm not sure they would have said Toma Basic. I mean, he looked comfortable. He didn't light up the game. It wasn't like that. But I think in the circumstances, you have to say that it was really impressive to see him slide into the team, having not been a part of the team for that long, and just go and do his job. And, we have to say as well, do his job just as well as Deli Bashiru's done that job, just as well as Cataldi or Bellian probably have done that job as well. and show that he can be a part of this team. He's not going to be a player who's going to change our season or light up our season, but he is someone we can depend on to do something. And I think we need to give him as a person an awful lot of credit here, because forget about the actual playing aspect of this. Like, he has been such a professional in the way he's dealt with this, because it can't be easy getting frozen out of a team. You know, he's still in his 20s. He should be playing regular football. So to just find yourself in a position where you know you're not wanted, it's been made clear to you you're not wanted, everyone's kind of forgotten about you, but you're still having to go into work every day and do your training and so on. It must be so hard to motivate yourself. And Sarri said afterwards, you know, I spoke to him before the season. I said, you are part of my plans here. At the moment, there isn't space, but you'll get a chance. And then, you know, he took that as the truth, and here he goes, and he gets his chance and he takes it. So I think we need to give him a huge amount of credit personally for the approach he's taken and the professionalism he's shown in getting to this point in the first place.
Definitely. I mean, I didn't expect to see him playing so long. One of the question mark I had was, how long will Basic play? I mean, in the last year, he hasn't played a single minute. Will he be able to play the full game? Or because people maybe forget that, but we didn't have midfielder on the bench. You mentioned Patrick. Patrick had to come in instead of Basic at the end of the game, because we didn't have any other option. Now, Belayan is going to come back on Saturday. Sarri said that Vecino will probably be able to play after the international break. Another international break. That's annoying. So we don't have many options. And thinking about Saturday, very important game at home against Torino, do you think it's going to be Basic starting, or is going to be Belayan Cataldi on Saturday night?
Well, suddenly it's not that easy to say, because I would have automatically thought Belayan, but the question now as well is kind of like, how annoyed is Sarri with Belayan? Is he going to hold that against him at all? The fact that he got himself sent off in the derby pretty recklessly. And, you know, Belayan's had a few chances this season. It's been a little bit hot and cold, to say the least, the whole time he's been at Lazio, really. There's a good player in there. I think we can all see there's a good player in there, but we've just not seen him find his level and stay there. But then again, I think we know by now, as impressive as it is that Basic has made this comeback, we also know that Basic isn't going to be that long-term solution either. So I think we might see a bit of both of them. You know, if neither has got 90 minutes in them, or he doesn't want either for 90 minutes. I think the really intriguing thing is Lazio. It probably took an emergency, a crisis like this, to get Sarri to give up on the 4-3-3, because he's so wedded to it, and he even made some kind of joke himself previously. Will this change his mind? Like, if Lazio go and get another result playing in a different way against Torino, having had 1 win in 4 before then, is that it? Is he going to actually be able to lock in? Because if you look at our squad, playing this way, we're actually probably better equipped in terms of playing with 2 centre mids, having better options to rotate rather than with 3, and then quite a lot of wide players we can move in and out of those positions. The problem then becomes the striker, probably, because we only really have 2, don't we? Unless Nosland starts playing up there.
Hey, come on, Nosli. He's going to be top scorer. He needs to play Saturday instead of Dia. But Alistair, before talking about the tactics, let's go back a minute, because we mentioned Basic a lot already. He was out of the list. He came in, and I don't know if that was a huge surprise. Probably it was. Delebashiru was excluded by the list. So what it means that Basic will stay till January, when the transfer window open again, and Lazio will be able to switch the list again. Delebashiru is out. Lazio can do another substitution before January, but it's not that Basic can come out. Once that Basic is in the list, he's going to be in at least until January. So if Sarri wants to bring back Dele Bashiru, someone else has to go out. So who's going to be? Lazzari, Vesino, etc. And this was quite surprising because, Dele Bashiru started all the games so far, and no one expected, or very few expected, Dele Bashiru to go out. But Sarri said after the game yesterday that pretty much it was a medical decision. Dele Bashiru is the player injured that will take more time to recover. So when Dele Bashiru is going to be back, he's going to be re-added to the list. So now the question is, who's going to go out? Vesino, Lazzari? Who knows?
Yeah, have to wait until the time to decide, because if there is another injury, then you have to make changes again. Looking further ahead, Dele Bashiru, we're going to lose in January for AFCON as well.
Who knows?
Well, probably.
If he's not...
And then, so there will be complications, I guess, coming up. But I think that's why I was kind of bringing up that the formation change in that sense as well, because it kind of simplifies that problem a bit. If you only need to, or at least to be able to rotate between different systems, even in game, if we're not finding the goal we need, because that was a frustration in the derby, was that you never left the same system, even though we weren't able to find the goal. But yeah, if we can have a system as well where we only need two in the center, it doesn't matter quite so much that we're having to juggle around all these players all the time.
So would you switch definitely to this 4-2-4 tactics, or
I think it's too early to say. I'd like to see it again. And it's also hard to say how much of it was like, what was behind this? Like, was it the system that was behind this? Was it just a reaction to the derby and like real wounded pride and a point to prove that was behind this? Was this kind of like a hangover from last season? And not a hangover, but it's kind of like a memory, an imprint from last season, like that when Lazio did play this kind of style and they can remember how to play it, it's still fresh. More attacking players on the pitch, Dia and Tati close together and being more attack-minded.
Yes, but I thought there was a Sarri twist in that, because, of course, it reminded us a lot about the Baroni tactics, but with the Sarri spin, I would say. So Cancellieri instead of Isaksen, Pellegrini instead of Nuno Tavares, are more conscious, very offensive-minded tactics, I would say, right? There was a little bit more balance than we saw last year. So that could be the key, right? Is putting the offensive mind of Baroni with the defensive mind of Sarri. If we can merge them together, it would be amazing. I don't think we have the right players, but we can find something in between, right, Alistair? Something that works, that provide Lazio more goals, but without conceding hundreds of goals like last year.
So do you think, what could end up happening is that we do go back to the 4-3-3, but the 4-2-4, 4-4-2, whatever you want to call it, is a kind of like in-game change when we need.
I think in some games we can start like this, and it depends a lot on the mindset of the players. You can play even with 4 strikers, but saying, hey, we have to defend a lot. So Cancellieri, Zaccagni, when we're defending, you have to be as midfielders, left back, right back, etc. So that depends on how the players perform, how they focus. Because there's this point, Alistair. In 5 games so far, Lazio scored 7 goals, but only in 2 games, right? Verona and Genoa. So there's definitely a problem in scoring. And yesterday, we have to be honest, without Provedel playing his best game so far, probably we would be here talking about another game, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Well, just before Providence, I mean, I think that it's not a coincidence, or at least you can see a pattern there with the goals scored. They're the games where we've been able to play into more space, where we've had more open games. In the case of Verona, on our home pitch, big pitch against a team that was pretty disorganized at the time, where we were finding plenty of space. And then last night, in that kind of counter-attacking style, where we're allowing them to have a lot of the ball and then moving into their half of the pitch very quickly and directly. But the Como game, we were suffocated any sort of space. The Roma game, they defended really deep for a long time and couldn't pick our way through. Sassuolo was a bit of a weird one, I guess, where just never really took our chances when they came. But yeah, I think that perhaps they need to be a bit more adaptable depending on opponent, or rather than thinking there's one way of doing this. And that's what, like, going back to what I said about Cancellieri, because I think Isaacson, once he is fit, is probably more effective in those kind of tight spaces, against locked defenses. He's got better close control and vision, that kind of stuff, whereas Cancellieri is so direct and quick and so on that he can cause problems if we do find ourselves with more space.
Anyway, do you think it's a coincidence that we won the 2 games where we scored after 2 minutes?
It helps. I don't think it takes a tactical genius to realize that it helps.
Well, that's, you can be too convinced you already won the game and lose it. I mean, last year, Venezia scored after 5 minutes against us, and we won 3-1. So,
yeah, but I think, like, we've talked about this before with Sarri, even the last Sarri team, where this team, whether it's the way they play, whether it's his coaching, whatever it is, they've always had an issue where, like, if we go a goal behind in a game, it's been very, very, very difficult to get back into it or to feel like you've got the attacking potential to turn a match around. So I feel like, given that we know that and there's a track record of that now, scoring an early goal with the Sarri team probably helps settle everyone a bit more, because it gives them a lot more confidence that they can kind of play calmly for the rest of the match, knowing that they've got a lead to protect. But yeah, sorry, going back to Provedel, you just mentioned, I think that is worth pointing out, because he's come in for some criticism from you in particular. Campanile's anti-Provedel campaign, everyone knows it. But yeah, I mean, and look, you've made some good points along the way. The fact that we're not seeing him make decisive saves as much as we used to, and I think last night we did. So he got to give him the credit where it's due, because it wasn't just a clean sheet where the team defended well. It was a clean sheet where the goalkeeper did make important interventions along the way. So he earned it.
Especially at the end of the first half, where we were struggling a little bit, right? Genoa had a couple of very good chances. What was it? The one at the end of the game against Colombo. That was very good save. Colombo was so close to the goal. Provedel made a very good save. And I have to admit, it was a year probably I didn't see Provedel making that type of saves. So that was really important. And even for him, I think, because, he's not stupid. He saw that the season didn't start very well. So he needed that game, that type of game. And we needed it because, if we're going to play that offensive type football, we need a better goalkeeper, even because, Alistair, Romagnoli played a good game, but Gila yesterday was far from his best. Now, I don't know if it's because he was injured, he had a little muscle issue, but he's making a lot of mistakes in every single game. You can count a couple of mistakes every single game from Gila. And that's a rising concern, right? He should be our best defender. He's not.
What were the mistakes yesterday that concern you? Can't really think on the top of my head.
Well, he lost a couple of balls. He missed a couple of tackles. I remember in the first half, he dived to tackle one player and completely missed it. So,
well, I think Sarri likes to have a settled partnership there, and Romagnoli with Casale last time turned out to be to think about now, given that we've seen the way that Casale's career has gone since then. But yeah, I think we expect more from Gila because he kind of took off so quickly and suddenly developed into a player who was being linked with Real Madrid. I mean, seems a bit far-fetched, but even the fact that people can create those stories in the first place tells you that he's a talented player. And we don't have many other options. We kind of need it to work because Prosgaard, I think, has impressed us in the sense that he's done far more and been a far bigger part of this Sarri 2.0 than we expected him to be. But he is still pretty raw. I quite like what I've seen from him, but I do think we're going to have to depend on Gila and Romagnoli working as a partnership. So I can't really see that changing anytime soon, if that's what you mean.
Well, now we have Patrick coming back, so that's going to be interesting, right? Because before it was Patrick starting with Romagnoli rather than Gila. Now, the question is, if we're going to change tactics and if Rovella's not going to be available, do you think Patrick is going to permanently move and become a midfielder for us? Or do you think Sarri will still like to play him central defender?
Well, I mean, I can't see him being used as a central midfielder in this squad permanently. But it is useful to have, a guy who can play in multiple positions. Is huge. That versatility is a massive asset. It's not something we've really seen or used for quite a long time because he did turn into a centre back at a certain point. The early years he was being used, wing back, right back, centre back, central midfield,
everywhere.
It's that La Masia education probably that means he can just kind of go wherever he wants. But if we could use him that way, that would be really helpful because we will have times we need a right back. I'm sure he could fill in as a right back. Yes, central midfield, I'm not totally convinced, but then again, it's useful to just know there's someone else given the crisis we've just had.
Yeah.
And then centre back, we definitely will need him as a centre back this season because we're pretty short in that area. But I just hope he can stay fit, get back fit and stay fit because it feels like it's been a long time since we've had Patrick as a regular part of this squad. And let's not forget what a kind of talisman he became for this team for a while as well, where he's the kind of hype man, he's the guy who's like, he's really up for it. He's really good at personality in the changing room seemingly, and someone who's kind of very good at kind of, setting standards, have him back, not just for what he gives on the pitch, but also off it.
We have to talk about injuries because the situation is concerning. And last year, we could say, hey, we have the Europa League, we have Coppa Italia, blah, 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 a lot of games. This season, we have only the Serie A, and the injury crisis is even worse than last year, right? Rovella, we don't know when he's going to be back. Vecino is pretty much a mystery. Pedro got injured or wasn't 100% fit last year. This season, Isaacsen is another question mark. Yesterday, we lost Marusic. We don't know for how long. Pellegrini was subbed because he twisted his ankle. Gila came off because had a little muscle issue. I mean, going like this, continuing like this, we won't arrive at January with players available, right?
Yeah, it's the last thing we need when we've already got a fairly thin squad to begin with, and without obvious candidates from the youth team to kind of step up and fill in spaces. I know there were a few of them on the bench last night out of necessity, but it's a concern. I mean, I've not read anything yet about Marusic. That one did concern me because it was one of those ones where he just knew straight away and also the reaction of his teammates too suggested that something bad had happened. But he did walk off, so I'm hoping that's a good sign. It wasn't like he looked in crippling pain or he had to take a stretcher or anything, but he knew immediately that he'd done something. That might be.
Sari after the game said, "We have to see, but it looks like he got hurt again on the same injury he had in the past. So we have to see how severe it is. It shouldn't be that bad, but you know, the thing, Alistair, is we are playing less game than last year, and we're getting more injuries. Bad luck, circumstances, and Sari pushing too hard on training. I mean, what do you think? The team getting older?
I think it is just it's an increasingly big part of the modern game because of the amount of matches, what's being asked of players, in my opinion. I mean, we've just come off a season where we've gone all the way to the quarterfinals in Europe. We've had the Coppa Italia and a full Serie A season. Playing, everything fell apart was they had nothing left by the end of last season, really. Going from that into this, you would hope that ultimately it'll help not having Europe, and it's not going to stretch the squad so much. It's not really been the aging players only who are having problems, but I think that it does create. I mean, you've just flagged earlier the kind of questions and kind of problems you can end up with trying to work out who goes in and out of the squad list, for example. That becomes massively complicated if you're picking up these injuries, because you would probably say people like Husay and Maris and Lazzari are obvious candidates because they've not really been featuring hugely. But if Marisic is injured and if Tavares is considered a risk, let's say, then you probably do need those guys in your squads just to cover those positions. So, yeah, it's going to make things a little bit complicated. I mean, everyone's going to get a shot, at least, to show what they can do. Everyone apart from Noslin, seemingly, ever since you tipped him for top scorer, has basically never been seen again.
Yeah, that's my fault. I hope with this change of tactics, if it's going to be confirmed, that he gets an opportunity there. Because I think playing next to a number 9, Noslin can be really, really dangerous. But you mentioned Nuno Tavares. Do you think he didn't start because of what he did at the Derby, or because you agree with Sarri, playing so offensive-minded football, you need a better left back, a better defending left back than Nuno Tavares? Even though we cannot say that Pellegrini is a great defender, right?
Yeah, I mean, probably a little bit of both. You know, Sarri didn't try and hide the fact that he thought it was all down to that error. You know, it was all down to Tavares' mistake. I can imagine him being very frustrated about that. He's a particular coach who likes things to go to his plan, who likes players to do things a certain way, and Tavares cost us by overplaying, really, by trying to do something off script. Then again, it's not really something we didn't already know, you know, that we will be taking risks if we have him there. And that was always the question we talked about last season a lot, was the balance of risk and reward. Because if you can get that, if you can exploit those attacking weapons he's got, you've got a huge bonus that you can take advantage of. But those are the flip sides. But yeah, so probably feeling like you can rely on Pellegrini a bit more defensively when you've got a more attacking team made sense to him. But I don't think he would have minded making a bit of a statement there after the derby either. But it's not, yeah, like you say, it's not like Pellegrini comes in and you've suddenly got a rock solid, very defensive player there. No. Pellegrini's a decent player, but he's not like the antithesis of Tavares.
Very similar, I would say. They're very similar. Did we mention Tati Castellanos so far in the podcast?
You said you thought he was man of the match.
I thought he was, and I thought he was decisive again. Is it a coincidence when he's playing great football, Lazio wins game, or there's something in it?
And he likes scoring against Genoa.
And this, I give you the Alistair stats of the week. This is the first away goal he scores under Maurizio Sarri.
Yep. And it was a good goal. It was a good goal because it was like, I feel like it would be a bit harsh to say this was a simple goal, but you know what I mean, in the sense that when we talked about Tati a lot, it's been about he can score the spectacular, like he did against Genoa last year, but he struggles with the kind of more standard number 9 finishes. And this was a classic number 9 kind of goal, wasn't it? You know, getting in the box, pull back, and then finding the bottom corner. He made it look kind of spectacular with the way he went about it.
Say that Maruzic's assist wasn't perfect. It was a little bit too behind Castellano, who was good enough to track back and, you know, slide to get the ball. I think Genoa goalkeeper isn't that great, to be honest with you. I don't think it's a bad mistake, but I mean, Donnarumma probably would have saved it, right?
Well, it would have been annoying if Donnarumma was playing for Genoa all of a sudden. But no, I mean, you're right. It was. That's why I said it would be harsh to call it an easy finish, because it wasn't. But it was more of a classic number 9 style goal, and the kind of goal we want to see more from him this season. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, like, look, that's been a theme in both wins, hasn't it? Tati playing his best stuff and Lazio play their best stuff. But yeah, I think there's a really good player there, but we just need to find a way of kind of tapping into that every week. And he needs to find a way of tapping into that every week too. So whether that's having someone playing alongside him, whether that's just having a bit more space in the game, like he did in those 2 matches, I'm not sure. But we're gonna depend on him this season, because the goals aren't going to be flowing, I don't think.
And Alistair, looking forward, now there is Saturday Lazio Torino, but then there is Atalanta Lazio, Lazio Juventus. These are 2 very difficult games. It's true there's going to be the international break going forward after Lazio Torino, but we need to make points. Otherwise, the situation is going to be terrible, right? It's going to be. I mean, Atalanta surprised me against Juventus, and Juventus is still a very good team, right? So we need to make points, and we need to make a statement to improve our performance.
If even Providel's calling you, you can just pick up. You know, if some complaints about the show. Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's like you said, another international break coming up, but Torino at home is a game we have to win. No, there's no 2 ways about it, really. I mean, as kind of saying just before he came on, Baroni's found himself in trouble, but the best performance he's got out of that team this season was when he came down here and they beat Roma 1-0. And in that match, you know, they showed that they do have good players in that team. You know, they really do. Like, it's a squad of pretty talented individuals who just haven't been able to work together as a team particularly well. I mean, we can say that for Torino teams for many years now. This isn't just a Baroni problem, but we do need to be careful in that sense. I mean, because we can't take them for granted at all. You can't underestimate them, because they do have players who can hurt you. I mean, look at Simeone's goal in that Roma game. I mean, he'll score one of them every 2 years, but still, it was it goes to show.
Well, you mentioned Simeone. He tends to score against us pretty much every game, so he's going to be the player to watch. But yeah, Baroni knows this team very well, because it's the same he managed last year. But at the same time, these players know what Baroni wants, so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a really important game. Are you concerned that we're playing on Saturday after a Monday night game away? Do you think, seeing all this injury piling up, do you think we're going to be even in a worse situation next Saturday?
No, I mean, we're used to playing in Europe, so Monday to Saturday should be fine. I don't have too many concerns about that. This team has just come off a year playing in the Europa League, so can't complain too much about that. The temperature has finally cooled down a bit here, so 3 o'clock isn't worrying me as much as it might have done a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, it's an important game. I mean, they're all important now, but I think especially because those early weeks of the season, you don't really pay too much attention to the table, do you? Because everything's kind of taking shape. People are working out their best teams and so on, and you don't really know what's true and what's not. I think after 5 games, we're already seeing a group of big teams forming at the top, and we need to be up there with them sooner or later. If that's where we want to end the season, we need to be getting up there. And it's not too late by any means to start clawing up the gap, but we need to be getting results, and home games against out of form teams. There's no excuse really. That's where we have to be.
Alex, I think we can wrap it up here. Do you want to mention a Scottish player before we wrap it up, because you didn't so far?
Well, incredibly, Torino have a Scottish number 9, Shea Adams. So I'm torn, Vittorio. I mean, ideally he would score and Lazio would win, because we've got huge international break for Scotland coming up. So if Shea Adams finds his form just before, but Torino still
like
lose,
last year when we won 3-2, and did he score that unbelievable goal, or was in the way
against
game,
Lazio,
right? We won 3-2, and he had the back heel. Was he doing the back heel?
Oh God, I completely forgotten about that. He's not a scorer of many goals or great goals, but that's when you can rely on him to pull something amazing out against Lazio. So let's see. But he's been on the bench most of this
like
season
every Scottish player. Oops. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening. Thanks, Alistair, for joining me. Remember, if you want to support our podcast, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Membership starts at $2 a month, and we'll be back Monday this time, as we are playing on Saturday. Take care, Laziali.